If it is sort of in that yellow area, these are tight vacancy rates. They're on the order of about, or the gold area, they're less than 2%, less than 3%. And if it's in the red area, those are incredibly tight vacancy rates, and those are less than 1% of those apartments are vacant. Now, what we're seeing here is that this is to look at the vacancy rates by the age of the property, and these are as of the end of last year, which is our most recent data. And what we have here is that you can see that where the vacancy rates are low in these properties that generally are older apartment buildings is in the outlying areas. Things are still incredibly tight, more in the San Fernando Valley. They're incredibly tight in these buildings, but also even in the major parts of LA County. If you go to the next slide, these are new developments. These are buildings that have been built since 2000. And here you can see that the vacancy rates here are not only above 4% and 5%. In some areas, in the Hollywood area, in these buildings now, the vacancy rates are actually greater than 10%. And what we're really seeing here is an issue of affordability, in that the more affordable apartments, the vacancies are still incredibly tight. These tend to be apartment buildings that were built before 1980. In the more recent apartment buildings, these buildings tend to have apartments that are at the higher end and where the rents are considerably higher than in the older apartments. And we're seeing that it's taking longer actually to lease up these apartment buildings, the newer buildings. And you can also see from the map where much of the new construction has been occurring. It's been occurring in downtown LA. It's been occurring in the Hollywood area, the San Fernando Valley. And we're also starting to see more new apartment development in the Pasadena, Tri-Cities areas. Okay, so turning to the highlights from 2007, apartment demand for apartments slowed down quite a bit. This is with the slowing of the economy, and also with the increase in new supply of apartments. That's the good news, is that we have had quite a few new apartments that have come online. But the occupancies are still tight. They're especially tight in older buildings. And certain areas of the city where there has not been a lot of new construction, such as the San Gabriel Valley. Monthly rents have moved up, but not as much as in previous years. I think that that's really the good news, that rents are starting to stabilize. And so rents increased about 3%. We will be having more new units coming online in 2007, almost 7,000 new apartments, or I'm sorry, this should be 2008. Almost 7,000 new apartments will be coming online in 2008, many of these in the downtown area, the Hollywood area, and the San Fernando Valley area. The next slide shows, though, that for this cycle now, we are seeing that LA County rent increases are slowing, that we're coming off of that rather torrid period of high rent increases to sort of more slower rent increases, and we expect this to continue. And then finally, in terms of our outlook, which is on the next slide, the economy is slowing clearly due to the credit crunch and due to the housing downturn. And we're seeing apartment occupancy should remain high in LA County, especially in the older apartment buildings, but we are seeing that the rent increases are slowing. And part of the reason why the rent increases are slowing is because there's a shadow market out there now of individual houses and condos for lease. These are being done by individuals who are choosing not to sell into this market but are leasing their apartments or leasing their condos, and this is competing with the apartment market, but it's also serving to relieve some of the pressure that's been on the apartment market, because people are leasing many of these condos, especially in downtown LA. And then finally, where the new apartment supply is probably the greatest, is going to be in downtown LA. It's in Hollywood and the San Fernando Valley. Most of this new supply will be high-end apartments. So that is the outlook. The markets keep changing. They're very dynamic, and I am happy, and if we go to the last slide, if you need any additional information, I'm happy to provide it. And but I just wanted to give you this kind of a snapshot of where we are in terms of the apartment markets this year, because they have changed quite a bit in the last year, mainly due to the economy.
Council President Eric Garcetti highlights 3 areas of Dr. Conway's report that stood out for him.
We appreciate you presenting this very timely and always exhaustive and a good sense report to us. As a colleague and I were just kind of joking, it's, we know that things are bad, so it's kind of, well, this report is telling us what we know, that it's pretty bad out there. But you also showed us, I think, a couple of the silver linings of what is happening. Yes. 3 takeaways that I certainly had from this were that rents are stabilizing, which is something so important as our constituents face the inflation that they're facing from gas and food and all the other cost of living increases that they've experienced. Secondly, that we're actually getting a good number of units built finally in the city, it sounds like. And that's, I think, when we were supposed to be building 10,000 units a year of housing overall during the 90s, we built about 5,000 units a year, and we fell about 50,000 units behind. It's making up for some of that. But third, I did hear also that there's an affordability gap, that a lot of the units that are being built are not commensurate with what people can afford. Is that a fair takeaway as well?
I think that that is a fair takeaway, yes. There is a real need for affordable units. It remains probably one of the most challenging the greatest challenges in the rental market, yes, and workforce housing units.
Yeah, and that middle piece is also, I know we've taken our pension funds, for instance, and we've invested with companies now that are trying to do for-sale workforce, which is a very difficult piece to do, because the way subsidies are set up from the federal government, state government, are really for median incomes, which they expect to be much higher in other cities, like 70+ thousand. In San Francisco here, it's in the 30s, and it's very difficult to find that financing, pencil something out. But let me ask you this. I know in your recommendations you talked about what some of the private companies are doing, land purchasing, consolidation, as strategies in this tougher marketplace. Any ideas what we should be doing from the public sector? I mean, we're looking at the possibility of some land banking, trying to continue our subsidies. I know in the budget that's been proposed to us, our Affordable Housing Trust Fund, ironically, in this worst year ever, folks, has been zeroed out. The general fund contribution is 0 this year, after almost a decade of building that up. But, certainly our ability to respond where the marketplace can't in building affordable units right now, coupled with maybe land prices being somewhat more affordable. Do you see that?
Exactly. That was what I was going to suggest, is that we are starting to see now that landowners are coming down in their prices, and they have not for really the last 5 years. There are going to be some opportunities that will be coming. They're not quite there yet. There is this disconnect between the buyers and the sellers, and getting financing is critical. But I totally agree with you that land acquisition is key, and trying to preserve some land for maybe more affordable housing would certainly be very beneficial to LA County in the future years. Public-private partnerships are also very helpful in terms of infill development, mixed-use development. These are unique opportunities, but there are some private companies that are very interested in this and in working with the city in order to try to create workforce housing units. And so I think that, again, it's going to be many small increments that will get us there. It's not going to be one huge sweeping change. And the council obviously will be balancing many different priorities.
Mentioning the upcoming vote on Proposition 98, which would affect residential property, District 6 Council Member Tony Cardenas wants to know how many units will be needed to keep up with demand.
An initiative coming up on the ballot in June, and it's called Proposition 98, and it appears to be looking into changing how California would be allowed to have rent control throughout the state of California. Are you familiar at all with that proposition?
I must confess that I'm not, actually.
Okay.
But
the reason why I ask you is because obviously if there were a massive change like that, it would affect tomorrow's presentations that you might have when it comes to housing, because obviously we do have rent control in certain areas being exercised in certain parts of our city and certain parts of the state of California, and it certainly affects certain communities' abilities to have accessible rents, people who have been there for a while, etc. So I was just curious if you had studied that yet.
We haven't had an opportunity yet, but what can I say, rents were incredibly low for the early part of this decade. I mean, in terms of rent increases, the rents have never been low, but the rent increases have been low. They shot up quite a bit in 2005, 2006, and I'm relieved to see that actually that the rent increases now, once again, will be fairly low, and in some instances less than actually what is afforded by rent control.
Now, what kind of housing stock do we need to add in the city of Los Angeles, just round figures, in order for us to keep up with the demand? Or how far behind are we to date, and then what kind of rate are we growing at as a city?
Roughly about 10,000 units a year is sort of what would be
The
sort
demand.
of a minimum, yes,
Yeah.
in terms of, that has slowed down in recent years because the economy has slowed down and the loss of jobs. But we expect this to be fairly temporary this year, maybe next year, and then we expect that things will be picking up again, but roughly on the order of 10,000 new units a year.
District 4 Councilmember Tom LaBonge asks about earlier trends in housing and inquires about other cities around the country.
Just to go back maybe 20 years, what was the trend if you've looked at over the years? Because there was a period
Yes.
in the 1990s where there was no development in housing. Could you
Yes.
explain that so we look back?
Exactly. There was actually overdevelopment in apartments in the late 80s, and that we think 10,000 units a year now is a lot. But in the late 80s, they were building more than 50,000 units of apartments each year. And in that time, they were actually overbuilding some of the units. And then when the 1990 recession hit, which really impacted LA very hard because of the defense layoffs, you see, we had a tremendous excess supply of apartments as well as single-family homes. And it took almost, well, between 5 to 8 to 10 years to work through that inventory.
And that's where we are today now as that's that period of the last 7 to 10 years has been the building period.
The last 7 to 10 years, they've actually been building condominiums, but the builders have cut back. They have never built as many units as they did in the late 80s. Where the building has primarily been focused has been out in Riverside and San Bernardino.
Right.
That's where they've been building a lot of new homes,
Right.
and mostly for low to moderate income families.
And not just in the Inland Empire, but around Southern California. Where else in the country are challenges like this? If you study...
Florida has some similar challenges. Las Vegas, oddly enough, also has some challenges because they've become sort of an inland port.
Right.
And in addition, of course, to the gaming industry. So there have been a lot of people moving to Las Vegas. They've been building a lot of housing. They overbuilt, actually, so they can rest for a
little
while
bit.
and have plenty of housing for people.
And,
But
most
Florida has
important-
been challenging. The East Coast is very challenging, building around Washington, D.C., New York, or Boston, where these are older communities. There isn't a lot of available land. And that's what we have in L.A. County now. We don't have a lot of huge land parcels.
Expressing her appreciation for the report, District 15 Councilmember Janice Hahn explains the impact of the housing downturn as it relates to trade at the Los Angeles port.
You know, these problems are really, circular. The downturn in the housing market has an amazing effect on a couple of areas. One very key that a lot of people don't realize, but because of the downturn in the housing, imports at the Port of Los Angeles have been down. Why? The number one import coming into the Port of Los Angeles is, what do you think?
Wood, construction,
Furniture.
furniture, right? Wood.
Furniture is the number one import. So when people are not buying houses and wanting to, put furniture in their house,
Very good.
that we see that immediately out on the docks. And you can always tell when there's a downturn in the movement out at the port that this is what's happening. Well, what happens when there's less goods coming into the port? That affects jobs. And the number one industry in Los Angeles is the international trade industry. So this has a huge impact all the way around. A lot of people think, well, it's just a little downturn in the housing market, but it really does have an amazing impact on a lot of these things that we come to take for granted, particularly as it relates to trade coming through the Port of Los Angeles. So I just took this opportunity to say it does impact everything that we're doing. A lot of people don't realize why jobs are slow at the port right now, and it has a direct impact to the housing market.
After naming the communities that make up his District 11, Councilmember Bill Rosendahl talks about traffic gridlock and shrinking affordable housing on the west side.
Okay, so this is my reality in my district. I have no affordable housing anymore. I can't keep affordable housing. The price of land has gone through the roof. Even with this recession we're in, having the ocean, having the fresh breeze is the best property in the city, okay? Because of the air. How do I keep affordable housing on the west side? All my apartments are threatened by condo conversions, which is a nice little profit for a developer at the expense of losing my middle class and my working class. So if I lose the middle class and the working class, they have to go work in the district. The gridlock will remain forever. Any thoughts from your perspective on how I can deal with that as an elected official?
Well, first of all, I'm a great admirer of your work and in terms of the initiatives that you have put forward to try to deal with this, because you are totally right in that it is the most desirable part of the city to live in, and that is where a lot of new job creation is happening. But also you do have to work with these different governments, and affordability is the main issue. The only suggestion that we might make at the Lusk Center would be in terms of these private-public partnerships in the area of workforce housing. There are infill developments where workforce houses are feasible. Sometimes they're a little bit higher density, but on the other hand, when you do the trade-offs and you try to preserve affordable housing, to preserve the workforce that is there, some of those trade-offs actually really make sense.
Since your Los Angeles City Council had invited Dr. Conway to make the report, a vote on the matter was not necessary, and item 19 was received and filed. Now, if you have suggestions or comments about any of the programs you see here on Channel 35, or would like to receive a free viewer guide, call our viewer hotline at 213-473-3978. And we invite you to address the Los Angeles City Council on any item on the council agenda, as well as during public comment. You may come downtown to City Hall or go to the Van Nuys City Hall and participate via video teleconferencing. And remember, you can watch all Los Angeles City Council meetings live in their entirety on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays beginning at 10 a.m. On Sundays, you can watch the replay of all the week's meetings, also beginning at 10 a.m. Council Week in Review can be seen Monday through Friday at 9:30 a.m. and 6:30 p.m., and on Sunday at 9:30 a.m. Well, that concludes our program for the week ending May 2nd, 2008. On behalf of Cameron Keyes and everyone here at Channel 35, I'm Jack Popejoy. Thank you for watching, and please join us for the next Council Week in Review.
Moving is so much of who we are. It's easy to take it for granted. Multiple sclerosis stops people from moving. We exist to make sure it doesn't. The National Multiple Sclerosis Society is a collective of passionate individuals united by a common goal to address the challenges of each person whose life is affected by MS. We believe that moving is not just something you can or can't do, but rather is who you are. That if you are alive, you move along with, because of, and in spite of the great big turning world. Join the movement, the National Multiple Sclerosis Society, at nationalmssociety.org.
Bike to work and be part of the traffic solution on Thursday, May 15th. You could win a folding bike, get to ride free on Metro and other participating transit agencies, and get free giveaways at pit stops. You'll be reducing traffic, improving air quality, and your health. Plus, you'll save on gas. Bike to Work Day is a great opportunity to leave your car at home and enjoy a great bike ride to work. Just remember, safety is key for all. Share the road. For more information, visit metro.net/bike to work.
LA City View Channel 35. Your city, your channel.
is a meeting of the Los Angeles City Council. It is Wednesday, May 7th. Thank you to Council members Alarcon, Cardenas, Labange, Perry Smith, Weiss, Wesson, and Zine. I would ask that Council members Hahn, Weisar, Reyes, and Rosendahl please make their way down to the Council chambers so that we will have a quorum. Thank you. Again, would ask that Council members Hahn, Weisar, Reyes, and Rosendahl please make their way down to the Council chambers. If we do not have another Council member get here shortly, we will entertain motions for adjournment. Again, this is the meeting of the Los Angeles City Council, Wednesday, May 7th. The council meets Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. On the first Friday of the month, we are in the San Fernando Valley City Hall. We welcome you to participate either by coming down to the council chambers here at City Hall or to go on our website, as well as listed on channel 35. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alarcon, Cardenas, Gruel, Hahn, Weisar, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Weiss, Wesson, Zine, Garcetti. 10 members present and a quorum, Madam President.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. First order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
Yes, Ms. Perry moves. Mr. Reyes seconds.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Those will be approved.
On the regular agenda, items 1 and 2 are both items noticed for public hearings, and they are street vacations in Council Districts 2 and 3. If there are no protests, the Council can instruct the City Engineer to proceed with the vacation.
We will proceed with vacation. We can take a vote on those items? Yes.
Yes, Madam President.
Madam Clerk, please open the roll on items 1 and 2, close the roll, and tabulate the votes.
10 ayes.
Thank you. Next item?
Next items are items for which public hearings have been held, items 3 through 26. Item number 3 is confirmation of a city official. Do you wish to hold that on the desk?
Yes, we will hold that on the desk. And Ms. Perry?
Yeah, I need to continue item 6 for 2 weeks.
Okay. Item 6 for 2 weeks.
And the new date would be May 21st. And I believe there's a request on item number 14, and the city attorney will speak to that matter.
Mr. City Attorney.
Thank you, Madam President. On item number 14, we are recommending that this matter be referred back to Plum to correct an agenda deficiency, and it would be treated as a first reading with a public hearing.
Okay, so that will be going back to Plum, or it will be referred to Plum? Item number 14?
Back to Plum, yes.
Back to Plum. Yes, specials. Mr. Zine. Mr. Zine, item 16. Any other specials, colleagues? So that means item number 3 is held. Item 6 will be continued. Item 14 will be referred to Plum, and item 16 is called special. Any other specials, colleagues? If not, Madam Clerk, please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the votes.
10 ayes.
Next item?
Next items are items for which public hearings have not been held. Items 27 through 40, 10 votes are required for consideration.
Thank you. We do have cards on item number 40. Mr. Labange?
Yeah, for Ms. Hahn, items 27, 35, and 36 called special, and for Mr. Weezer, item 38.
Okay, that's 27, 35, 36, 38, and 40 are now called special. Any other specials, colleagues? If not, Madam Clerk, please open the roll on the remaining items, close the roll, and tabulate the votes.
10 ayes.
Thank you. Next items?
That would take council back to public comment.
Thank you. We will begin public comment. Go back out to the San Fernando Valley. Rick Nightingale. Mr. Nightingale.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Rick Nightingale. I was kind of wondering regarding this, there was a lot of hoopla yesterday regarding the medical, regarding for free. And I was just wondering, like, when I was younger, I turned around and I got jobs. I didn't have medical and all that. And then obviously, when I got older, I figured, hey, man, I better get some insurance. So I looked for a job with benefits, it's called. And just because you make more money, if you don't get benefits, you're not making it at all. So I understand why everybody's promoting it. Everybody should have free medical. I never heard of such a thing. That I was taught when I was younger, if you get something for free, you haven't earned it. And then you don't appreciate it if you don't earn it. Because then you just feel, well, if that's free, everything should be free. Why should I have to work? Why do I have to improve myself? Why do I want to go to school to improve myself? And I changed my vocation 4 times to get a real good job, and I became an electrician. Because it had good benefits, I made decent money, but I went to school for it. And why can't other people do this? I just don't understand why everything has to be free. And everybody thinks the government is supposed to take care of this. It's up to you people, that's why you're on this council, you pass all these other laws that are ridiculous sometimes, and something that's so important to this, to people. I had a company, I was an electrician, I was a contractor, and I had to have benefits for people. And I don't understand why you pass so many other laws. Why don't you pass a law that everybody that turns around and has a business, when you do your taxes, you show that you can show benefits for your employees, even if it's not an employee, for the person that owns the company. At least this way here, people know that if you're going to have a job, you're going to have benefits. And I mean, if they don't, then you look for another job, or you get a different vocation. You do something to improve yourself. That is what it's all about. Life is improving yourself. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is James Oda, followed by Sky Anderson, followed by Bill Huey. Mr. Oda.
Good morning, City Council and City Council members. My name is James Oda, Oda Trucking, Harbor Truckers for a Sustainable Future. CAP is bringing more issues that need to be addressed rather than just cleaning the air. The employee status. Rather than have concessions with employees, why not permit the work in the harbor, use permits? This may eliminate the employee status altogether. The original proposal of CAP has all the intentions of union employees, replacing the independent truckers and targeting the few remaining trucking companies to become unionized. Last week, Thursday, May 1st, 2008, the harbor was closed with the longshoremen protesting the war in Iraq and Afghanistan. What the longshoremen were showing is the solidarity on the West Coast. They closed the ports from Washington all through California. You can imagine that if the harbor truckers become unionized, they can and will let the ports and the cities know who controls the nation ports with the union brotherhood. Having 3 unions at the ports with 3-year contract gives the unions total control. TWIC already extended the deadline to next year. The replacement of the pre-1989 truck. Is this still going to happen on October 1st, 2008? Who will be replacing all these older trucks when there's a division between the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach? I ask my customers to use only the ship lines that go into the port of Long Beach and suggest to my friends to do the same with their customer. Employee status is creating quite a problem. Many of the independent truckers have been replacing the older trucks, but they are not being told that by 2012, all harbor trucks have to be a 2007 engine, model truck, or newer. They need to really know and understand CAP. that the replacement of all these older trucks must be 2007 engines and older. And in the state of California, by the year 2019, only 2010 models will be used.
Thank you, Mr. Oda. Appreciate you being here. Sky Anderson, followed by Bill Huey, followed by Oscar Johnson.
I'm Sky Anderson. I'm a resident of Los Angeles for 8.5 years, a community activist. I want to thank Ms. Perry for introducing a legislation to protect low-income hotel residents. And I want to thank Mr. LeBon for introducing and having passed legislation which makes it difficult for people to dump trash in Skid Row or anywhere else. I've noticed a great improvement since that resolution was passed. Now, I know you people are very busy, and what I have to say means nothing to you, but there's an audience at home that might care. The Hotel Knickerbocker in Hollywood Knickerbocker Hotel, is occupied by 95 to 90%, 97% Russian people, and that's against the principles of HUD. HUD sponsors them financially, and they have an anti-discrimination clause saying that you can't discriminate in national origin. I've been trying to move in there for 4 years, and all they do is give me a hard time. They lied to me and lied to me and lied to me. And when I protested them lying to me, they got even more difficult to get along with. So I got angry at them, and then they sent me a letter saying my application was being refused because of my behavior. Well, they don't want someone in there. They'll lie to them and abuse them, and if you protest them, then they say you can't belong there. That's one way they keep anybody who's not Russian out of the place. The owner of the place is Mr. Goldrich. He was born in Poland, part of Poland. He was raised in, was annexed by a Russian, so there's a connection between his childhood and anyway. Carol Gladney, the president of G&K, which manages the Hollywood Knickerbocker, is corrupt. She doesn't care about truth. She doesn't care about the people. She cares about winning at all costs. And she has a bunch of tactics. She's an expert at this. She's been doing it for years. They have a huge, maybe 150 apartment complexes and 17,000 cheap, inexpensive housing.
Thank you. Bill Huey, followed by Oscar Johnson, followed by Chuck Tenon.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the Los Angeles City Council. I want to bring something to your attention that's very serious. I'm speaking for myself and the thousands of other landlords in the city of LA who are in the same situation. In 1996, the Los Angeles City Council gave the LA Housing Department the authority to send inspectors into apartment buildings in the city of Los Angeles seeking code violations, even though none of the tenants had made a complaint. This is much like having the police department come to your home wanting to look inside for a reason to make an arrest, even though the resident does not have a criminal record. In my case, the housing department wants me to make $20,000 worth of cosmetic improvements to my building, but I'm not allowed to raise the rent a little bit in order to pay for the loan. My two tenants are only paying $400 a month rent for a one-bedroom apartment in Los Angeles. That's about one-third the citywide average. A small rent increase would pay for the improvement loan and solve the whole problem, but the LA Housing Department won't allow it. Mayor Villaraigosa recently appeared on the news and stated that if the public wants more services from the city, they must be willing to pay for them. This must work both ways. If the LA Housing Department wants landlords to spend a huge amount of money on cosmetic improvements, the city must allow landlords to raise the rent to pay for these improvements. The present system is unfair. We have unfair rent control laws in the city of LA, and we're forcing landlords to subsidize people that they're not related to. Inside the LA Housing Department, there's a prevailing mindset that landlords are the enemy. Ms. Mercedes Marquez, the general manager, does not respond to certified mail from landlords or their attorneys. Legally speaking, this is putting the city at risk. There is an attitude of non-cooperation when fair-minded landlords reach out to the city as a partner to solve code violations or problem with tenants. I'm willing to work with anyone on the city council who wants to make things right for landlords and for tenants. And can I give this to the Sergeant at Arms?
Yes, Sergeant at Arms will be able to do that. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Huey. Oscar Johnson.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning, City Council. My name is Oscar Johnson. I'm a concerned citizen of the city of Los Angeles, and I'm here to speak about corruption in government. If we can end corruption in government, we can stop government waste. Where I see the MTA finna have a 8-mile rails from Exposition to Santa Monica for $230 million. And at the same time, our government tell us we don't have any money for any other resources to serve the people. But I wonder, how did we get so corrupted, though? Our founding father of this country, they had their own occupation, and politics were their second thing. So how could the politician live off the people's money and tell the people we shouldn't live off and tell the citizens that they shouldn't live off the people's money, that they should have their own money, when we should have a government should be for all the people, and we should have a government should care for all the people. We should find a way to stop police brutality. We need fair housing. We also need jobs and education. We also need to get drugs out of our country. We need to get alcohol out of our country. As drug is illegal, alcohol is a form of drug also, predominantly in the African American community. And anyway, I was reading about we have senseless killing going on. 114 African Hispanics have got killed in Los Angeles in these last 4 months, and there have been no unsolved murders. The district attorney has turned their back on the people that they're representing. We should find a government that care for all people, especially the ones who do not have the power to care for themselves. And I read about one of our founding fathers, John Adams. He said democracy would be very difficult to be successful without morality. And I wonder what have the moral fabric failed in our government, especially among our legislative leadership that's supposed to lead us in this 21st century. We should have a overhaul in our country, and we should have a remaking. We're very in doubt of remaking in our government.
Thank you very much, sir. Our next speaker will be Chuck Tenon. Thank you. Your time is up. Chuck Tenon. Thank you. Chuck Tenon, you're our next speaker. Are you here? Chuck Tenon. All right, I guess Mr. Tenon is not present. Arnold Sachs. Arnold Sachs. Last call for Arnold Sachs. We'll go to the San Fernando Valley for Sharon Brewer.
Sharon Brewer, public comment. Yesterday, May 6th City Council meeting breakdown regarding time spent on agenda items. Order handled. Number 36, 11 minutes. Number 6, 1 hour. Number 8, 2 minutes. Number 9, an hour and 45 minutes. 6 items, 15, 35, 27, 28, 29, 33, 10 minutes. Number 34, 11 minutes. Why should the public have to wait over 2 hours and 45 minutes for 2 items to be heard when 9 items could have been heard first in maybe 35 minutes? I left yesterday at 1:05 p.m., 2.5 hours after giving public comment at 10:30 a.m. I had cards in on number 27, special event fee waivers totaling $28,653. Number 28, LA Fiesta Broadway, $162,977 fee waiver. And number 29, $52,500 convention fee waiver. I would have had to wait an additional 40 minutes before my items would have been heard. Total time waited for public comment would have been over 3 hours. While waiting, I requested the books being used regarding the 2008-2009 budget from the mayor's office, the clerk's office, and CD6. Yesterday, I found out that 3 of the budget books are here at CD6 office, but that I would have to look at them in their office. I asked that since I had to wait yesterday to speak on agenda items, that I could take one of the books to the chamber down the hall to look through it while waiting. I again was told I had to stay in CD6 office. I'm the one that asked for these books. The only reason these books are in CD6 office is because of me. CD6, please, because of the long wait yesterday to speak on agenda items, could you direct your office to let me look at the books in chamber, or at what I really like is to be able to go and take the books home, because I'm the one that requested these books, and it's ridiculous that there are no books for the public if they want to take and make comments on the budget. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker will be Mervyn Eugens. Mervyn Eugens.
My name is Merv Evans, and I approve and authorize this message. Let me share with my friends who care about Israel and our rabbis throughout this city. I've got a special message for you. President Bush stopped selling military equipment and Warburgs to friends or not friendly friends or neighbors of Israel. It is foolish and bad public policy to sell military equipment to countries that surround Israel. What a disgrace. We can do better. My name's Merv Evans. I want to talk to my friends in Hancock Park, in Los Feliz, and in Hollywood. Our Jewish community is under attack. Our Jewish community is constantly being victimized and victimized by hate crimes. And our LAPD is doing a pretty good job. If you care about Israel, if you care about the Jewish community, please visit mervynlevans.com. Please take a look at that. Now, one other thing. Again, Merv Evans here. Mr. Alican, you're looking real good today. I am real concerned that we start to address the fact that there is simply too much friction between our Latin and black community. We have to have a better plan. We have to live together, not live at each other's throat, talk at each other. We have to work together, and I believe we can work together. Now, can you hear it? I hear it. It's coming about in January. I hear a moving van, pulling up to the back of the White House and about to change this country. I can actually hear the van. I think a couple of you can hear it too. My name's Merv Evans. I'm counting on you. I need your support. And let me share one last thing with you. As a veteran of the 1st and 10th Air Cav, I believe it's a national disgrace what we're doing to our veterans. Please stop the policy of having the LAPD take cars from homeless veterans. That's the last thing a person needs, to have their car taken away. And we can change that policy. We can do more. Merv Evans, I want to say thank you once again.
Thank you very much. Laura Silagan or Silagan.
Or Szilagyi.
Okay.
Yes. I just wonder, can everybody hear me okay? That's great. I've come here for another item, but I just want to say that a lot of the people who were going to come here, senior citizens from Lincoln Place in Venice, were unable to come because of the acoustics in this room, which is very difficult for the hearing impaired. I don't know, Wendy, whether there's anything that can be done for the hearing impaired when they want to speak and come down here and be heard, because they have a hard time hearing in this room. And this is an issue that I think should be looked into. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and we will make sure we'll work with our CLA and city clerk on that issue. I appreciate you bringing that up to us. Thank you very much. It's hard, even for those who are not hearing impaired, sometimes to hear in this room with the echoes. Thank you for coming today. I appreciate it. That closes public comment. Madam Clerk, first item.
Next item, Madam President, is item number 3, and that's confirmation of James Featherstone as the permanent appointment to the Emergency Management Department.
Mr. Featherstone, please come up to the table. You brought your fan club today. I'd like to acknowledge Mr. Weiss.
Thank you. I'm going to have to do without my customary prepared remarks on you, Captain, former Captain Featherstone, and just say that as I consistently do every time I get to speak about you in public, I just want to embarrass you. I mean, you're such an absolute superstar in local government, and I think that it is that not only are we fortunate to have you, but I think it's just a matter of time, frankly, before you become a leader in our national government in the area of emergency preparedness, as well. You are that good. I'm hoping, though, that we'll get you at least here for a couple years to turn this department around. You've already made tremendous strides. You've got tremendous ideas for how to make this not just sort of an abstract emergency preparedness department, but an emergency management department that really coordinates closely with communities. And as you've discussed with Mr. Reyes, when we're in public safety, you have a particular focus on communities of color, on underserved communities in Los Angeles that traditionally perhaps have not had that level of connectedness with emergency management. You're an extraordinary candidate for this position, and I'm really, really proud to have supported you, really proud of what you're going to do. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Mr. Zine.
Thank you. From fire captain to general manager, which one's more exciting?
They're both challenging, sir.
They're both challenging. I'd like to recognize your colleagues that are here. They're here for you, I assume.
Yes, sir.
If we can have the fire personnel that are in the room stand up and be acknowledged here supporting the newly appointed almost general manager. Thank you for being here. Your colleagues from the fire department, thank you. Years of experience in the fire department, interim general manager, substitute general manager, almost general manager, and now final confirmation. I mean, you've been to this table about 4 times that I can count. You definitely qualified for the position. I know that your experience in emergency management is well documented. Seen you in public safety a number of times, and I know you're going to turn that department into what we want it to be, the agency that protects the people of Los Angeles. So you'll be working with your colleagues, not only in the fire department, but also the police department. Such a critical issue. We keep hearing about earthquake possibly, earthquake possibly, earthquake possibly, and I'm confident that you'll do extremely well in that position. I just hope you stick around. We don't have an earthquake, but you can stick around and prepare everyone for that disaster that we all anticipate is going to happen someday. I know Hal Burnson and Greg Smith has reminded me many times that it's not if, it's when. So not only that, but other natural disasters that we have to encounter in this beautiful Southern California. So welcome to that position of general manager. I wish you well in that environment. And for all those years of dedicated service, you're still here for the people of Los Angeles. So congratulations to you. And thank your command staff from the fire department for coming by and acknowledge you on this promotion to general manager, appointed by the mayor and hopefully confirmed by the city council. Congratulations, Jim.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Reyes. Mr. Reyes.
I just want to thank you for your service, and I appreciate our discourse during committee, and thank you, Councilmember Wise, for bringing up that whole concern that in this city, it's an international city. The diversity in our language and our culture and how we address the notion of emergency services and communication. I appreciate your responses. Not to put you on the spot, but perhaps if you could just articulate some of the points you made as we engaged each other in committee when I was asking how prepared are we? Do we have a network? I'm going to create a network. What mechanisms or methods are we going to use? And can you just speak a little to that issue of how we need to expand that communication capacity given the international setting that we have here in Los Angeles?
Yes, sir. Our preparedness it's dynamic. I often get asked the question of, are we prepared? And if I'm ever able to say we are prepared, then I'm not doing my job, because preparedness is continual. Preparedness, one of the charges we have in our department is that preparedness become as much a part of the culture of Los Angeles as the automobile. We need to have that as we live and breathe every day in Los Angeles. As we greet the rising sun, we need to look at preparedness in the same fashion. We continue to outreach to the community, the various communities, the different communities, socioeconomic communities, the different ethnic or cultural communities in the city, addressing disabilities, addressing language issues, cultural issues. So we understand that the message of preparedness needs to be multifaceted. But the thing is, the key for us is that it needs to be a message of preparedness every day and every moment here in Los Angeles.
So in key points and key junctures within the emergency preparedness chain of command, how we link into other different systems, how we connect with communities, we have personnel that speak more than one language.
Absolutely. And if we don't have those personnel on staff, we outreach to the city family, and also there are different state and national capabilities to address language issues, so that we understand that we need to get the message out, but we also need to be able to sculpt the message for the many different ears, so to speak, that have to hear the message.
Great. Again, I appreciate your hard work, and I'm glad you're at the helm, and I look forward to voting a yes and supporting you in this position.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. No other speakers on the queue.
Madam President, just for the record, to let council know and the public, the salary is $162,000. And also on the effective date, that was changed after the committee report was written, and the committee report needs to be changed to reflect the effective date of April 30th.
That will be the order. So, Madam Clerk, please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the votes.
11 ayes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And Madam Clerk, I think we'd like to reconsider item number 4. If we could open reconsideration of item number 4. Open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the votes.
11 ayes.
Thank you. We can go ahead and take actually item number 4 now. Would you like to hear the public hearing first?
Thank you, Madam President. I appreciate
Yes.
that. We have 3 great community leaders. Come on up and say a few words about what we're doing on Lincoln Boulevard, which is a great thing. The community's been totally engaged on this. It's an opportunity for us to get a handle on Lincoln Boulevard and to do what we need to do as a community to make it a more vibrant street that has a positive impact on the community. And the 3 constituents are here, and if they could just state their name and go into their concern.
We do have, I do, Jerry Jaffe, Laura Salagio, and David Ewing.
That's right.
Yes. We're here from the Laura Salagi, Venice Community Coalition. We're here to support this. We're extremely happy that this has finally come to pass. The CDO for Lincoln Boulevard has been a long struggle. I think we started about 5 years ago. Our group conceived the idea, and we're very pleased that it's going forward. We do have one request, and that is that along with dealing with the design overlay for Lincoln, that all of the illegal billboards on Lincoln be removed. Thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you to all the people who are...
Could you state your name for the record?
I'm sorry. My name is David Ewing, and thank you for hearing us this morning. And I want to thank all the people who were involved in making this happen, and particularly to Councilman Rosendahl and to the members of the planning staff who moved this forward. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That closes the public comment there. Mr. Rosendahl?
No, I just appreciate my constituents coming down, and especially those 3. They provided great leadership in the process of coming up with what I hope my colleagues will support. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rosendahl. We now have that item before us again. Madam Clerk, please open the roll on item number 4, close the roll, and tabulate the votes.
11 ayes.
Thank you.
And Madam President, the order goes over for 1 week to May 14th.
That'll be held over for 1 week. Next item.
Next item is item 16, and that was called special by Councilmember Zine.
Thank you. And Mr. Zine, we do have...
Madam President, that's going to be a closed session item, so we're going to hold that till the end with your approval.
Okay. We do have one public comment card. Should we go ahead and hear them now?
We could hear the public comment, but
Okay.
the matter will be held in closed session due to advice from the city attorney.
Okay. Mr. Curry? Tom Curry on item number 16. Tom Curry? Okay. If not, and there already had been a public hearing as well, but we thought since they were here. Thank you. If we could take item 38 out of order. Mr. Wiesar.
Very much, Madam President. Colleagues, what this motion does is provide support for AB 2077, the English Learner Assessment Act that Assemblymember Fuentes is sponsoring up in Sacramento. Colleagues, one of the biggest challenges for LUSD next to its construction program is assuring that it provides the best service possible to its 43% plus English language learners in LUSD. If English language learners succeed at LUSD, so does LUSD. What this bill will do is improve the way we bring services to them throughout the state of California, where they now make up almost half of the students for the state of California. With us today is the president of the Board of Education for LUSD. I wanted to introduce her, and if the clerk could please hold my time as she makes a presentation on this item. Monica Garcia from LUSD. Welcome.
Well, thank you, council members. Thank you, Councilman Weezer. Good morning, council members.
Good
I am
morning.
here as your partner in helping our schools get to 100% graduation. I appreciate your support and your urging us to do things different at the school district. Today, we can together send a message to Sacramento that laws have to change so that our children get the support they need. Very simply, AB 2077, carried by Assemblymember Fuentes, will take a CELT test, which is the language acquisition test, move it from the fall to the spring like every other state except Montana. We want to make more sense in the way we approach students. This test also, you have before you, two different ways of reporting to parents. This is the colored copy, which is easy to understand, is CST. This is the way the CELT test gets reported today. We want to change that. So the three things this bill will do is, one, move the big test from the fall to the spring. Two, improve the way we talk to parents. And three, release sample questions so that there could be better preparation, like what we do with the other tests. I appreciate you taking this up today. I appreciate your support on this bill and what you do every day to help us meet the needs of our children. Gracias.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Ms. Garcia, for your leadership and being proactive about finding ways to better serve nearly half of the students in LAUSD. Certainly I, as an English language learner when I was coming up, found it very helpful that as I moved through the educational pipeline, that there were those services available for me to learn English and move on. I want to thank Mr. Cardenas for seconding this motion. And ladies and gentlemen, we have people in LAUSD who speak Spanish, Tagalog, Korean, Chinese, Russian, etc. Finding a way for them to do well in education is their ticket and entry into the United States to do well. So thank you for your support on this item. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Weezer. Madam Clerk, please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the votes.
12 ayes.
Thank you. Thank you, Monica, for being here. Next item.
Next item, Madam President, item number 27, call special by Councilmember Hahn.
Thank you, Ms. Hahn. We do have one card. Ms. Hahn, we do have one card. I'll go ahead. Do you want to, just from Arnold Sachs, we'll go ahead and hear him speak on this public comment?
Oh, sure. Oh.
Mr. Sachs?
Good morning. Thank you. Arnold Sachs. Very quickly, I just am concerned with the language on this. I'm reading from an agenda item from March 19th, and this was Council File 071548. Communication from the Office of the City Clerk relative to the fiscal year 2008 annual planning report for the Tarzana Safari Walk Property-Based Business Improvement District, parentheses, PBID. This is another property-based business improvement district that you have on your agenda, but it's registered as a bid. Now, I've come before you before based on the language of your bids for property-based business improvement districts, your bids for pipeline franchises, and been told that it's the connotation that's involved. Well, a property-based business improvement district is different, I would imagine, than a business improvement district. And I see the city attorney, I don't know if he's shaking his head yes or no, or he's being pretty stoic. But if they're different, then they should be noted as such. And if you mean a property-based business improvement district, then the file should reflect a property-based business improvement district and not a business improvement district. Thank you for your time, your answers, and your attention. And I'm sorry I missed my public comment. But we shouldn't be penalized for being in committee meetings. That's not fair.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Ms. Hahn. And Mr. Sachs, if you'd like, after this item, we'll give you a public comment.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, what we have before us today is the San Pedro property-based bid. About a year and a half ago, you gave me the support to embark on the creation of a property-based business improvement district in San Pedro, and that's what we're doing today, is making that bid a reality. Currently, the San Pedro bid is merchant-based, and its leadership expressed an interest in changing it to a property-based because it will allow the downtown merchants to invest the kinds of resources necessary to make downtown San Pedro all that it can be. We're having a great renaissance in downtown San Pedro, and this more stable source of revenue will help us to continue to improve our downtown visually and certainly security-wise, and that will benefit all of the property owners and allow for better long-term planning. One of the key components of this property-based bid is the fact that the Port of Los Angeles for the first time is going to be a partner in this process. And for a long time, San Pedro has wanted to create a seamless interface between the Port of Los Angeles and downtown San Pedro. This vehicle will allow us to do that. Today we're approving this bid, which will start retroactively to January of this year. The contract we will approve will last until December of 2012, and I will tell you my expectations are very high for this property-based bid and its leadership. I have great hope that the dream that we've all been dreaming for a very long time about downtown San Pedro will become a reality. Colleagues, I've passed around an amending motion that is technical that will be a part of what we're voting on today. So I urge your aye vote so that we can truly move forward with the renaissance of downtown San Pedro.
Ms. Hahn, has the amending motion been distributed yet?
Yes. Has it? Yes, or she's distributing it?
I don't think the clerk has it yet. So
Here it is, right here. As we
right
speak.
there. Okay. As it's being distributed, seeing no other colleagues on the queue, Madam Clerk, please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the votes.
12 ayes.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sachs, would you like to give your public comment, please?
What is my end game on this?
Yes, good morning. Thank you, Arnold Sachs. Very quickly, a few things. I appreciate the Transportation Commission, the Trade, Tourism, and Travel Commission opening up the hearings for the airport, whatever, but if they're going to do an audit and they're going to do some committee hearings, maybe they should do a committee hearing on Metro, LAC, MTA, and the policies that are being abused by the people that sit on the Metro board, as far as the need for construction authorities, the no need for the construction authorities, the East Side extension that's going through without a construction authority, the center city connection that's downtown, the downtown connector that's being proposed without a construction authority, that doesn't really connect anything, that stops outside of Union Station, it has more stops to go from the blue line to the gold line, and the fact that there's a Foothill Construction Authority when none was authorized by state legislation, and then there's also the Crenshaw Corridor, which is being considered without a construction authority. Where's the money coming from for these rail projects when the Green Line can't get built without a construction authority? I'd also like to point out that yesterday, on today's Daily Breeze commentary, there was another call for the mayor to take a salary cut. I brought that up a couple of weeks ago or last week for the city council, and I appreciate Councilman Zine bringing that forward, that the council members should consider a pay cut. I wonder when that's going to come up on the table. And finally, one other thing about the Airport Commission, the hearings today, I'm really surprised that the third place finisher was so low in the standings. Thank you for your time and your answers.
Thank you very much. Mr. Tenen.
There's a piece of paper that I gave this for, thank you.
Thank you. After Mr. Tenen, we will go to items 35 and 36. Mr. Tenen.
Okay. Thank you very much for this opportunity, President Gruhl. And
council members of the week who all work to make the city a better place to live, Herb Weston and Tony Cardenas, for moving forward a recommendation on a double parking violation, which I gave all you a copy of, which would generate lots of money for the city and discourage offenders. And Wendy Gruhl for moving it forward to the Budget Committee. So it's moving along, and I did want to commend Janice Hahn for her hardworking efforts on Gang Prevention Task Force. I had a first-hand opportunity to attend her meeting on Monday. I was well received. She's got a lot of great people that support her. I also wanted to make a comment. Journalism today is a one-sided and twisted. They seem to forget that the truth is just beyond the lie. And they gave her a cheap shot and tried to put her down on something. Well, your constituents, Janet, your people stand behind you united. They like you. A lot of city council members here support you. So do many people in this city. And your constituents and your people would defend you, and they would not allow anyone, including the press, to hurt you. So stand tall, Janice. We're all behind you. You keep moving forward, and you will prevail. You just need a little more confidence, and also an upcoming proposed music project that everybody in this city can participate in will generate a lot of money for this city to fund youth programs who are the future of our city. We need them to walk a straight line. Please see her for details. Remember, gang prevention is the key for a safer place for you and me. And the future of our city and our kids is all in our hands. We can make a difference if we all stand together. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. I'd like to acknowledge Mr. Cardenas or Mr. Alarcon for an introduction. For an introduction?
Tony and I were trying to figure out whose district this school was in, but we quickly realized it's in San Fernando. And so, but both of us want to welcome the kids from St. Ferdinand's School. I'm a member of the parish and certainly attended church there many occasions. So want to thank, this is the social studies. These are social studies students, and they're learning more about government here at City Hall. Even though it's not San Fernando City Hall, I'm sure some of these kids live in the city. How many of you live in the city of Los Angeles?
Pacoima, Selmar.
One.
No,
there's
more.
several.
Okay.
Several of them live in the city of Los Angeles, but they do attend school at St. Ferdinand's. We want to thank B. Rouley? Something like that. We want to thank the teacher for bringing the kids to St. Ferdinand's and experiencing government in action, we hope. Thank you. Thanks, Tony.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alarcon. We do have items 35 and 36 before us. Ms. Hahn, we do have a couple of speaker cards. We'll hear from them first, or you want to make an introduction?
I'd like to set it up a little bit.
Okay.
And may I have 27 forthwith, please?
27 forthwith.
Very, very important. Okay, colleagues, we're going to take item 35 and 36 together. 35 is how to deal with noise complaints from roosters, and 36 is limiting roosters to one per home, grandfathering in those who might already have more than one rooster right now. This might not be a problem for everyone, but it has come to my attention because many of my constituents, particularly in Harbor Gateway and Watts, have complained about roosters. I certainly never intended to interfere with the rights of people who use chickens and roosters to feed their families. People are entitled to a certain amount of their judgment in their own homes, which is why we as a city have ordinances and processes to deal with sometimes the noise that come from barking dogs or other animals. But in researching the problem further, my staff found that another problem associated with the number of homes that we have complaints against is that they have more than one rooster, and they also are involved in cockfighting, which we know has ties into the gangs in Los Angeles. In fact, LAPD Animal Cruelty Task Force is here, and I want to bring them up and let them speak about this problem. I introduced these two motions to find a way to deal with noise complaints and to also figure out how to combat the cockfighting problem we have in Los Angeles by limiting the number of roosters allowed per resident. We've heard from the Department of Animal Services about it being a very tough budget year, and they feel like if we vote for this, that we will be putting on them an unfunded mandate. So we're going to have to talk about how we might be able to do this. But Animal Services has told me that they receive 50 complaints a day about roosters. I've even heard a story about a resident that had a problem with the rooster, and Animal Services ordered them a cage and recommended that they try to catch the rooster on their neighbor's property themselves. And I just keep thinking we should have a better way in the city to deal with the problem of noise and to deal with the problem of the fighting. So I've asked the Department of Animal Services to look at this problem and report back to the Public Safety Committee with their suggestions on how we might address this problem in the city of Los Angeles. We deal with barking dogs. Why can't we deal with crowing roosters? Is what I want to know.
Thank you, council members.
Oh, I'm sorry. You want to go ahead?
Linda Barth, the Assistant General Manager for Animal Services. First, I want to say that conceptually we absolutely do. You mentioned some statistics about the complaints of crowing roosters. So we are completely in conformance that it's both a nuisance, a neighborhood nuisance problem, as well as it's an indicator, of course, of cockfighting and other much more difficult criminal endeavors. The concern that we've been expressing in regards to these two motions is that the first one in particular requests that our department create an administrative program similar to our barking dog program. It's a difficult program to administer. It's been cut 2 years in a row. We have approximately a 6 to 8 month backlog at minimum in handling barking dog complaints in our administrative hearing process. And given that we have received yet another cut this year in that program, and that program primarily or in priority deals with dangerous dog issues and the right of members of the public to have a public hearing in regards to a dangerous dog, and that's the priority, is that given the financial constraints we have now, developing, implementing, and managing a program like that simply isn't within the resources we have available.
But if you did have resources, do you see the rooster being dealt with the same way you do the barking dogs, the same process?
Well, I think that it would have to go the same process. What we find often with the barking dog hearings is they really become mediations for neighbor disputes that go beyond just the barking dog. And that's the challenge our department has in dealing with those hearings. I think what we have discussed in Animal Services is that the second of the motions, the one that limits the number of animals, really is the one that attacks the problem in two directions. First of all, simply by limiting it's going to reduce the noise level. It's going to make a homeowner more. Now you're talking about people who maybe have a rooster and a few chickens because they're doing some egg producing in their home or that kind of thing. It resolves the ability or the legal ability of people to have large numbers of roosters, which then fall into the cockfighting problem. It also lowers the number of situations in which somebody's really got an abusive or a very loud animal. So from our perspective, that's probably a good first step to reducing the overall problem in both directions. It also gives us an opportunity to do some more statistical analysis. Right now we have catch-all categories for rooster complaints, and we'd like to have more specificity in our statistics. However, there's one little catch-22 with the reduction. The way it's sort of proposed, a permitting process would have to be established, both for people who already have more than one rooster and going forward, people who would want to have up to 3 roosters. So again, given that we're looking at a 12% budget cut over the last 2 years, our department's got 25 vacancies in our officer classification, which we cannot fill because of the level of furlough days and so forth we're facing next year. We're looking at probably the most layoffs of any department in the city of Los Angeles in the next budget year.
So what do you do with the complaints right now?
An officer responds to the extent that they can. And they will write a notice of compliance. and leave that with the homeowner. If, in fact...
For a loud rooster?
Yes. Or for what often happens is they get out and they're roaming the neighborhoods, so we get calls like that. And, of course, we also get calls that are cockfighting tips, and those go to the Animal Cruelty Task Force. So in preparing some sort of an ordinance, I think what we'd like is consideration of the difficult budget situation that you already mentioned, and not to have to create some sort of a permitting process at this point that we are not funded for.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Council. I'm Bob Ferber. I'm the supervising attorney of the City Attorney Animal Protection Unit. I'm here with our Cruelty Task Force. As you know, the city and the City Attorney's Office and LAPD and Animal Services are targeting blood sports. For many of you may not be as familiar with cockfighting as dog fighting, but it is as bloody, as brutal, if not more, than dog fighting. The origin of this ordinance, especially I'm focusing on 36, years ago when we didn't even have the task force yet, I was going out with LAPD and we were surveying locations around the city where roosters were being raised. And it dawned on me one day, we watched went to 7 different property locations, and the numbers of roosters ranged from 300 to over 1,000 roosters on a 2 to 3 acre properties that were no larger than 2 to 3 acres, and not a single chicken anywhere. There is only one purpose for a location with 1,000 roosters in the city of Los Angeles, and it's not for the 4-H club. These are roosters that, just by visiting the location, their proximity, the way they are being held, it is overwhelmingly evident that these locations are being used for cockfighting. There's no question it's gang related. I can add onto this that, well, I have to tell you that I came out of that day and was in a parking lot with a bunch of police officers, and we thought, my God, these people can't have more than 3 dogs or 3 cats, but they can have 1,000 roosters, and we couldn't do anything. And this task force lacks one of the most essential tools, which is to be able to go after this proactively. And by the way, when we speak to neighbors, this relates to 35 and 36, neighbors told us that day and on other days, we're afraid to call, because this isn't just about the noise and the smell. We know that these people are involved in cockfighting, and that means retaliation. So if with these ordinances, this would give the task force the power to proactively impact one of the most horrible crimes we have in the city.
And from what you're describing, it's a serious problem.
Incredibly serious problem.
I got a few snickers when I brought forth this rooster ordinance. But you're saying
I didn't realize it.
You're saying it's a serious problem.
It is. It's not only a serious, I mean, it's nationally a serious problem in California, but it absolutely in Los Angeles. And I particularly am most concerned about the way animals are treated in relationship to children and young people in our society. And in Los Angeles, I know everybody at this table shares my opinion on this, the most disturbing thing is that these crimes go without accountability while children are watching bloody, violent acts of cruelty against animals without consequences. I just went to Markham Middle School with my animals. I have a group of handicapped animals there that I take to different schools. And virtually every 7th grader that I spoke to 70 children. Every one of them has seen or knows where dog fights go on all the time. They wanted to know which one of my dogs could beat up the others. They looked at my blind puppy and said, is that a dog that you use for bait? These are 11-year-old children who had no concept. And when we talked about cockfighting, the response was, oh yeah, that's even bloodier. That's more fun to watch.
Oh.
These are the young people that we need to, it's not too late, but if we're going to wait for that one on occasional tip that a cockfight's going on here, it's going on, that is not going to be able to really impact the city.
This ordinance will help you.
Oh, hugely. And I really want to thank Ms. Hahn for you for helping us with this and putting this together. And it's something that we've been working for years to get the attention of government, and thank God today we're here.
Okay, and LAPD?
I'm Captain A. Bourne, LAPD. We oversee the Animal Cruelty Task Force, and just want to acknowledge that obviously with this, Animal Services would have primary responsibility for tracking and enforcing this. But we are here to provide some insight on the blood sport of cockfighting. So Lieutenant Lometico is going to be speaking. He is the officer in charge of that task force.
Just for about a minute. My name is Tony Lometico. Off to my right is Ramon Muniz, a member of the Animal Cruelty Task Force, and Sergeant Slater, also a member of the task force, the same task force that was here in December and recognized by Councilman Cardenas. I'm here today to let the council know that this motion and our eventual ordinance operationally will have a positive impact on the reduction of animal blood sport in the city of Los Angeles, which is a very, very serious matter. There's been a large number of cockfighting investigations and complaints that have been handled by the task force. These investigations have resulted in the recovery of guns, stolen property, narcotics, and other vice-related activities. In addition, in and by themselves, they are cruel to animals. And the fact that children are watching them is troubling. It contributes to violence later on in their lives, I believe. These roosters, shortly after their birth, are trained to kill. They live a life of fighting and trained to fight, and quite frequently die horrible deaths within a pit while people cheer and encourage them, sometimes in the presence of children. They unfortunately are not worthy of pet or companion status due to their aggressive, human-driven nature. Cockfighting complaints are commonplace throughout the city, ranging from the harbor area to the northeast part of the city and west through the San Fernando Valley. The ACTF has been successful in many cockfighting investigations. However, we are concerned with the magnitude of the problem and the impact it has on violent behavior. Thank you very much.
So this ordinance you want this ordinance?
Definitely. It's a very effective tool for the task force and police officers and Department of Animal Services personnel to utilize.
Okay, thank you. I know I'm over, so.
Thank you. That's okay, but you do get 6 minutes on your, because you were the maker of the motion. So if we could just hear on public comment, and then we'll go to Mr. Rosendahl and Mr. Cardenas, and then Mr. Alarcon. Phyllis Doherty, followed by Robert Ferbers from, you're here. Thank you.
Thank you. Phyllis Doherty with Animal Issues Movement. Thank you so much for hearing this. This is such an important ordinance. I'm going to speak on some of the other aspects because I have limited time. I personally surveyed the 31 surrounding cities around the city of Los Angeles. Absolutely not one of them even allows a rooster, period. Not even one rooster without at least a permit, and that's only maybe 3 or 4. The rest of them ban roosters completely, and it's for the very reasons that we're discussing today. We're not proposing that. We're proposing to make the allowances for those who do have roosters as pets and do enjoy them and do follow the laws and are not a nuisance to their neighbors. There are health concerns in having this many roosters. There are many zoonotic diseases, Salmonella, Campylobacter. We hear of children getting very ill, even dying from Salmonella. Very often it's because there are too many roosters and chickens too close to the property and they're being handled. These diseases can be airborne, although usually they are from the contact with the animal. I want to talk about property values. Nothing devalues your property more than having one or more crowing rooster next door to you. We have one that starts at 4 o'clock in the morning and never stops. It was crowing when I left for this meeting. But when you have a large number of them, it affects your health, and you cannot sell your property. So we also have the public to think of and their value systems and the economy. This has a tremendous effect on the economy. There's one aspect that I think would really help with this, Councilwoman Hahn. We need to impose fines. When we have noise issues, other cities impose fines immediately. We allow people to break the law in this city with absolutely no penalty. And when we start imposing fines and making people comply with the laws that affect all of the people in their community, we will not have this type of problem. So I really strongly suggest that that be incorporated as a part of this. Ms. Barth brought up that it should not be a citation. It should be an immediate fine.
Thank you, Mr. Doherty. Mr. Rosendahl.
Yes, I stand to say no more eggs to anybody in the city council. No. The bottom line is this, just so people understand. Roosters, because they crow all day, all night, are an issue. And they are a real issue in our city. I don't have any roosters. You don't need roosters to have eggs. But the questions are this. One rooster per property. What if the person has a big property and it's not next to neighbors and doesn't make a lot of noise? I mean, the neighbors can't hear it because there's a law already on the books about a rooster, correct? Explain the law in the books.
There's currently laws in the books regarding the distance that animals can be kept from other buildings and from your own home. Generally speaking, it's 35 feet to 75 feet for most animals. I think that the proposal is written, in fact, does have, that's why there's a permitting process included that would allow an exception for like a very large property or somebody who's maybe engaging in some agricultural activity that in fact does want a rooster because they want the chicks part. That's, I think, our concern is that the development of a permitting process in order to have some exceptions of some people to have up to 3 roosters is what we're concerned about being the unfunded mandate.
And the fact is, you have to have 100 feet, okay, from your neighbor.
I believe that's true for roosters.
And it's obviously for the reason that the noise of a rooster to some people is not a complimentary music sound. And people have their rights to have their opinions about that. But the point I want to make is if there's a lot of land and the person has a lot of space and they're more than 100 feet away from their neighbors, it shouldn't be limited to one rooster property. I mean, whose idea is that? That's ridiculous. Okay, so that I'm against that if it's a farmish area and it's more than 100 feet. Second, the cockfighting business. I got to tell you, I've been all over the world, not all over, 52 countries, and in some places it's a big deal, social interaction for community. I personally think it's inhumane, it's awful, and I would love to see that never happen in our country, nor support it in any way in our country. So I look forward to that part of it. But for the public to understand, a rooster is only there to fertilize the egg. And if you're fortunate enough, which I'm not, because I don't have enough land or enough space or enough countryside to have a rooster, they're very difficult to have in a city. I personally had people in the Hollywood Hills come to me about somebody down below who had roosters that was totally illegal against the rules, and I got you all out there to clean up that act, and those roosters were taken away. So just for the record, folks, let's have a great day today. Thank you.
Mr. Cardenas.
Yes, I want to thank the Animal Cruelty Task Force for bringing this to the attention of Councilmember Hahn. That's what we need to be doing. We need to be listening to the people out in the field who are actually responding to our constituents when the constituents are complaining. But unfortunately, cockfighting is something that still occurs. It's something that we need to eradicate. And can one of you help me understand, because I still haven't found the answer, as to why somebody would need 10, 20, 30, 40, 500, 1,000 roosters on their land? What is the legitimate functional reason why somebody would need that many roosters?
You mean legitimate?
Yes, that's my point.
Legitimate.
Is there something that somebody can actually state that, well, there's this reason why somebody needs X number of roosters, 10, 20, 100, 1,000?
As far as I know, and I've been watching this, observing this crime for 15, 20 years, there's only one purpose: cockfighting.
Okay. So this is, and in fact, as the councilman mentioned, it's somewhat funny, but many people don't know you don't need a rooster to have eggs. And on these property locations, there are no chickens even there. There's not even a pretense that this is a farming effort. Yeah. We had people who looked at us defiantly with police officers saying, you can't do anything about it. And as far as the 100 feet limit, there's what we get is, okay, we'll push them 100 feet, which if you look in this room, 100 feet is 30 yards. Anybody who's been near one rooster from 30 yards, I can guarantee you will never sleep. So the main thing, to the issue of somebody who wants 4 roosters for some interesting reason, or 5 roosters, or 10 roosters, the City of Los Angeles will provide them the opportunity to make their case, and if their case is made, they can have more than 3 roosters.
There are yes, I'm sorry.
But the fact of the matter is, I'm sorry, you were going to say?
rooster or a permit of up to 3.
Yes, one rooster, but a permit to up to 3. But at the same time, on any given day, if somebody wanted to approach a council member and ask them to run an ordinance to allow them to have beyond 3 roosters, is that process available to them?
I think that that's true.
But that's my point.
To make an exception.
It is so rare. It would, in my opinion, be so rare for somebody to need more than 3 roosters that if it was such a prevailing case, then they could go to any council member, preferably the council member of that district, and say, hey, this is the reason why I need 10 roosters or what have you. And if it's so darn obvious, I'm sure that elected official will be more than happy to carry that motion. But until that happens, it appears that having 3 roosters is plenty of opportunity because, as was mentioned, you can have 1,000 chickens, and if your purpose for having those 1,000 chickens is for them to produce eggs, you don't need roosters for chickens to produce eggs that people eat or whatever people want to do with those eggs. If you want roosters, those are to fertilize the chickens so they can have eggs in which produce chicks. People aren't necessarily doing that within the city limit.
Right.
And if they are doing that within the city limit, they obviously are going to have permits for doing that activity. And then if they need more than 3 roosters, they could come forth and we will give them the opportunity to have more than 3 roosters if necessary. The reason why I'm going through this dialogue, I think it's important for people to understand is, if somebody's going to go tell the press today, it's ridiculous for somebody not to be able to have 5 roosters or over 3 roosters. I'm still looking for the answer. I have never, ever, ever heard the answer as to why somebody, especially in the city of Los Angeles, why somebody would need more than 3 roosters.
Not in an urban environment.
So my point is, I think this is very flexible, it's well crafted, it's appropriate, and that way if the Animal Cruelty Task Force does run across a situation where they have more than 3 roosters, it's very likely something bad is going on, and then you can do your job and you can take care of business and hopefully save some animals and teach these people a lesson that they should not be engaged in illegal activities where there's cruelty to animals. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cardenas. Mr. Alarcon.
First of all, I want to make it very clear upon passage of this ordinance to all the 23 viewers of Channel 35 from CD7, do not call me to get a permit for more than 3 roosters. I will never support that. I couldn't imagine what kind of circumstances would exist for anybody to need more than 3 other than cockfighting. We are not producing chicks on farms in the 7th council district. So please don't call me. Move to some other council district and call them, maybe, I don't know, but please don't call me. This is a very serious issue. I do want to point out, relative to the comments about need for increased budget for enforcement purposes, one of the purposes of the spay and neuter ordinance was to saturate the use of spay and neuter techniques to reduce the need for law enforcement, for roaming dogs, and it should reduce the need for, or reduce the occurrence of dog fighting and feral cats and a whole slew of other things that the department spends a lot of time on, so that we could target specific problems. Roosters crowing is a huge problem in my district. We get complaints from every single community in my district. You wouldn't imagine that there would be roosters in Mission Hills, but there are, and the neighbors do complain about it. So I want to applaud Ms. Hahn for this motion and Tony Cardenas for seconding this motion. He gets it. He grew up in my district, and he knows, and even in Van Nuys there's a lot of roosters. Back 10 years ago, I actually lived in a house where 2 doors down behind the property there were 50 roosters tied to posts, and when I called Building and Safety, they had them put little condos over them. It was the most ridiculous thing. I thought at the time they did it, they complied with the law. It didn't solve the problem. 50 roosters would be crowing at 5:30 in the morning. So this is a much better approach, and in fact, it's really interesting, but less than a month ago, I got that same complaint from somebody about the condos that Building and Safety had told their people, their next door neighbors, to put on their roosters. So I think this is going to solve a lot of nuisance issues in our community. It certainly will hopefully reduce the number of calls. Initially, there'll probably be an upsurge of calls, but over time I think we'll get control of this issue, and more importantly, the inhumane treatment of these roosters in cockfighting will hopefully be eliminated from the city of Los Angeles. And I don't care what other country does it, and I know that my own heritage includes a heritage that allows for cockfighting in that country, but this is not that country. We don't want that kind of inhumane treatment of animals here in the United States.
Thank you very much. Mr. Reyes.
Call for the question, please.
Okay. You're all right with that, Ms. Hahn? You're the only last one on speaker. Rick, to close?
Wanted to talk a little bit about how much this would cost.
Okay. Well,
Here, we originally heard that this would become an unfunded mandate. So if we impose this, that Department of Animal Services has already said you're not going to be able to process permits. However, I'm hearing from LAPD and the Animal Cruelty Task Force that you're already out there on the scene and you can't do whatever it is you need to do because this ordinance is not in place. So sounds to me like, is it one of them that will cost money and the other one just needs to happen so they can do their job? Help us understand as we go through a tough budget year what part of this will cost money, but you still need it on the books to, as you said, do what you know you need to do.
The part of it that will cost money is the creation of a permit system and then handling the applications and processing the permits. It's certainly not expected to be, I think, as the council member said, most people who maybe are actually having baby chicks, I mean, you're talking about a very tiny number of people who have a legitimate reason to keep a rooster. Very, very small number of people. But our concern is that it will require adding another permit category. We'll have to set up guidelines. We'll have to have officers handle that. And there will be situations in which people will challenge that who have nothing to do with cockfighting, that are simply, just as we have with dogs and things, challenge the law because that's what happens often. People feel like, I want 4 or I want 5. So there will be a process. What the workload will be, we can't anticipate at this time. But we do anticipate there will be some workload. And right now we only have 2 officers handling permits for the city. We're trying to make some changes in that program. But we have a concern that there is going to be a cost to us if we have to devise a permit program. If we establish that the limit is 1 or 3.
Right. Well, I think I hear on the council a need to move forward quickly, but I also am hearing a need that we support what you're trying to do. It's clearly an issue, a serious problem, the number of roosters per home, as well as being able to respond to the noise. So I think what we'd like to ask for is a report back from maybe the task force as well as Department of Animal Services on what this would look like if it was implemented. I also want to take the suggestion that can we implement fines as a part of this ordinance, the permitting process, the fines, and then how do we enforce it? So we'd like that back, a report back. 30 days? 30 days.
Mr. President?
Yes. Yes.
Council President, if I may, we do call for the question. Shouldn't we have a vote?
Yes. This ordinance is coming back to us. So do you have anything else, Ms. Hahn? If not, we're going to vote on the call the question. Okay.
The amount of money that's spent on one call from police officers going to a location.
Yeah,
okay.
Just put that in the report. Ms. Perry, were you going to call the question? Is that
right?
Okay, thank you. All right. That item is now before us. Those are no other speakers on the queue. Madam Clerk, please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the votes.
12 ayes.
Thank you. Again, this item will be coming back with the actual draft ordinance. Thank you very much. Next item is item number 40. Sharon Brewer in the San Fernando Valley. Ms. Brewer?
Yep. Yes. Oh, great. Item number
40 special event fee waivers. You have 13 total, 9 with amounts, $17,499, 3 reimbursed, 1 no amount. One of the concerns is the 1 no amount, which is declaring the Immigrants' Rights March on May 1st, 2008, a special event. No amount submitted. I am wondering whether or not this is the May Day one, where basically probably thousands of police officers were on call just in case something ended up happening. And that one of the things that talks about for fee waivers says that there has to be a, I don't know if it's a direct benefit because I didn't expect to be called, so I left my papers there. But basically, I don't know that this march actually provided a benefit for the city in that, yes, it was an immigration march, but it really wasn't for the legal immigrants. And some of the other events that were on there, when I go and I look at the motions, they don't go and list a benefit at all. It doesn't say why the event is being put together. I don't understand why you have an event that it's $1,349 LAC plus USC Cinco de Mayo Festival. Anything with USC, they should be able to go and pay for. But again, these fee waivers need to stop because of the budget. And I still haven't seen that report that's supposed to come back to the Budget Committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Brewer. That item is now before us. Madam Clerk, please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the votes.
12 ayes.
Thank you. I think we're going to go back to item number 16. Mr. City Attorney, would you like to express we'll be going into executive session?
Yes, this item is going into closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9A.
Madam President, do you wish to clear the desk before going into closed session?
Sure, we can do that.
Council has motions for posting and referral.
Those will be posted and referred.
The excuses on the desk, Councilmember Labange requests to be excused to arrive at 11 a.m. on May 20th and to leave at noon on May 28th. A motion is required.
I'm sorry, did a motion required?
Yes, Madam President.
Mr. Rosendahl moves, Mr. Zine seconds.
And Councilmember Reyes requests to be excused Wednesday, June 11th to arrive at 11:30, and that meets council policy.
He will be excused.
And that clears the desk.
Thank you. Now we're going to executive session, so we will come back out of executive session and be able to take any items after that. Mr.
I have to be somewhere else, and the family is here.
Okay.
Is it possible?
We have a Rule 23, I know that is going around. If you'd like to make
I'd like to make a comment.
announcement, do you want to do the adjourning motion on Friday, but just make the announcement of the services?
Well, the family is here. And
Okay. All right. Well, if we can, then we'll take that into consideration. If we could ask everyone to please rise for Mr. Rosendahl's
thank you so much
adjourning
for
motion.
this, everyone.
Everyone, please rise.
I appreciate everybody doing this. I'm the luncheon speaker at somewhere else, but I want to do an adjourning motion in memory of Stan Arensberg, passed away November 14, 2007. His family is here with us today. He lived and he worked in Venice and Westchester area since he was 8 years old when the family moved from Philadelphia to Venice Beach in 1937. Stan had a paper route along Pacific Avenue, rode the red car to Venice High each day, and went to Cal State, L.A. Stan and his sisters and brothers always talked about the wonderful childhood they had there despite the hard times of the Great Depression. He loved his work. Stan even loved working in the Army. He opened Stan's Florist when he was 21 years old, got married, had children, went to college, merged with another flower shop, and became Stan's Westchester Florist. He designed and built the flower shop, which still operates at the corner of La Tierra and Manchester Avenue. Then he taught ESL, floral design, made parties and weddings come to life with his floral designs. In fact, he really honored everyone with his flower arrangements. Stan also opened the Coffee Company restaurant, still thriving in Westchester. Burr, he loved the flower shop, but everyone in the family worked there at one time or another, and everyone that worked there was family to him. He was a history major, but not really a political man. He believed in doing the right thing always, and that nothing is more important than real love. He loved everyone in his life. There was no room or time in his life for unhappiness. He's survived by his wife Toni, son Alex, his daughter Julie. Join us here today. May he rest in peace.
I'd like to second that and add certainly my condolences to the family. I lived in Westchester for a while. All three of my children were born and brought home from the hospital to Westchester, and every bouquet that was given to me for my children when they were born came from Stan's Florist. My mother, Mrs. Hahn, had an account at Stan's Florist as long as I can remember, in the days when you could still have an account at a florist shop. They don't do that anymore. And even when we moved away from Westchester, every time we had the occasion to order flowers, we always felt so much more comfortable going back to Stan's Florist. We were always treated so well, and the flowers and the arrangements, when you ordered it from Stan's, you did not ever worry when it was delivered to the recipient whether or not it would be anything less than a beautiful arrangement. Fine, beautiful work. And I remember very well when the coffee company was opened, and spent many fine mornings there with my babies and strollers enjoying that coffee shop as well. So Stan's, I feel Stan's Florist had such a part in my life and my children's lives, and certainly my mother's life. So condolences. We'll miss Stan.
Thank you, Ms. Hahn, for that. And this is an extraordinary move that we just did this without the council actually at that end of the meeting. And I want to thank all my colleagues for letting this happen. May he rest in peace.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl. And now we will go into closed session. So if we could have some assistance clearing the chamber. Okay, you're back now.
Madam President, the recommendation on item number 16 is just to receive and file the Budget and Finance Committee report.
Please open the roll on that item, please. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
I believe we have a special one next, Rule 23 by Mr. Smith.
Yes, and the city attorney will speak to the findings.
Thank you. Just yesterday, the county adopted a joint powers agreement creating the Sunshine Canyon Landfill Local Enforcement Agency with technical changes to the JPA. Immediate action is required for the city's approval of the changes in order to expedite obtaining the LEA certification from the California Integrated Waste Management Board. Council must first make findings pursuant to Government Code Section 54954.2 before considering the substantive motion.
Mr. Smith.
Briefly on the findings, the council has already approved this JPA. The county made a couple of technical language changes. This conforms now to their language change so we can go to Sacramento and get our LA approved.
Okay, thank you very much. Madam Clerk, would you please open the roll on this item?
Findings.
On the findings. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Now for the item itself. Do we have to reopen the roll?
Yeah.
Okay. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Forthwith, got it. Okay, great. Now, before we adjourn, any announcements? Ms. Hahn? Okay. Any other adjourning motions? All right. Before you go, Mr. Zine, because I would like to ask everyone to rise so we can do these adjourning motions. And I think all members should sign on to the adjourning motion for Joanne Miller. She was the mother of Jerry Miller, our chief legislative analyst. She was born July 27, 1926 in Billings, Montana. She passed away in Tempe, Arizona on May 5, 2008. She was a graduate of the University of Oregon and married to her husband Carl for 55 years. Her 4 children, including Jerry, their 3rd child, and his life partner Richard, eldest daughter Diane and her husband Jerry Grobe, eldest son Carl Jr., youngest son Paul and his wife June, and 6 grandchildren. Services will be held this Saturday in Arizona, and all members should sign on. I'm doing this motion on behalf of Mr. Parks, adjourning in memory of Lillian Matthews, who passed away on May 3rd. She lived in California for many years before returning to Oklahoma to care for her elderly parents. She was active in the church as mother of the Eastside First Baptist Church in Oklahoma for many, many years. The funeral will be held May 10th in Oklahoma, and she leaves to mourn her brother. Mayor Roosevelt Dorn, 2 sisters, 4 children, 6 grandchildren, 17 great-grandchildren, and a host of other relatives and friends. And I think that I would like to be added on to that as well. All right, Mr. Wesson, Ms. Hahn, for Mayor Dorn. Maybe we should just add Mayor Dorn as Mayor of Inglewood and add all of the elected officials. Last one is to adjourn in memory for Mr. Parks. Henry O.T. Davis passed away May 1st. He was the first born of 6 children to Henry Lewis and Ida Mae Davis in Sioux City, Iowa. Henry was baptized at an early age along with a sibling at the Tabernacle of Faith Baptist Church. Graduated from Centennial High School, got his BA from Cal State Dominguez, his MA from Pepperdine University. He joined the LA County Sheriff's Academy, where he earned the name Hot Davis. He worked for the Sheriff's Department for 31 years and retired in 2000 as a detective sergeant. He was a true family man. He loved his family. He loved coaching and attending his children's games, and took pride in his later years in attending his grandchildren's games and events. He is survived by his wife of 48 years, Shirley Jean Davis, 2 sons, 1 daughter, 8 grandchildren, 4 brothers, 1 sister, and a host of other family and friends. Mr. Zine. Oh, Ms. Hahn, did you press your button? Okay.
Thank you, Madam President. This was prepared by one of my prior deputies, who's now at the Personnel Department, Bruce Whidden. His dad passed away. David H. Whidden passed away May 5th. Just over 93 years of age, life spanning nearly a century of remarkable history. He was a son, a husband, a father, a veteran, a church elder, a lay teacher, a golfer, a great friend, and a world-class curmudgeon. These are in the words of his son. He did so much for so many. Born in a privilege, he stepped up to the sole support of his widow mother when, after his father passed away in 1935, they discovered that the Depression had eliminated most of their assets. He never complained, just did his duty, advanced the date of his wedding because the Second World War made June 1942 wedding a pipe dream. By the original date of his wedding, he was in basic training at Camp Chowder, Missouri, taking the communications expertise he had learned with the Pacific Telephone since moving to California in 1936 and translated it to the fields of war. He would not see his family again until November 1945. In the interim, saw more oceans, more volcanic rocks, and more cans of Spam that he could recount. I know how he could recount. He advanced with the Army Signal Corps from August 1942 right up to the end of the war. He made it to Tokyo to help set up American occupation headquarters only 10 days after the atomic bombs ended the war. And he saw firsthand, to use his own words, why humanity must never use the military again to settle a question. It was a period of life that colored all the rest, and while he was so proud of his service, he never stopped saying he would never want to do it or see any of his own do it again. When he eventually agreed to travel back to the South Pacific, he would never again eat a slice of Spam. Few things were as important to him as family, though sometimes he had to count the golf clubs as members of our family. He loved golf, learned as a child in New England, and for much of his working life made his living on the golf course, not as a pro, but he did have a 2 handicap, but rather as a right-of-way attorney with the telephone company. Some say he had more contracts signed for easements than scorecards. He'll be greatly missed by his family and friends, survived by his wife, more than 18 years, Dorothy, his children, Barbara, her husband Stephen, Catherine, her husband Patrick, Bruce Whidden, who currently with the Personnel Department, City of Los Angeles, and his partner Richard Van Zant, 8 grandchildren and 8 great-grandchildren. May he rest in peace, David H. Whidden.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zine. All right, that marks the end of our adjourning motions. Madam Clerk, would you take the roll? Meeting is adjourned.